Hello.
Hello. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Hannah. So
Hi. Hi. Nice to
good to
almost
see
see
you.
you. Now I can see you.
Yay.
Hello.
Great to see
Hello.
you.
Very nice to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah, and to
Oh,
see you
right.
in front of all this artwork.
Exactly. Yes. It's all my sister's paintings. Yes.
Oh, okay. So they're artists as well as violinists.
It's Margarita, the cellist sister. Yeah, she also paints. Has done for like a number of years. Yeah, she's great.
Gosh. Wow. Okay. Oh gosh. Is there any way of moving the screen up a bit so I
Oh,
can like
okay.
at the moment the
Yes.
picture cut off at the at nose level.
These are
There
just
they
some of them.
are.
There's lots. Yes.
Wow. Is the room like a gallery? Is it covered in paintings like this?
There's lots of paintings, lots of sisters paintings, lots of kind of paintings you acquire as you go. Everyone has those. And but yes, mostly Margarita's work. Yeah.
Okay, gosh, wow. Okay, well, okay, before I get carried away with this, let me introduce you. This is Robert Valinas,
Hello. Hello.
Latvian violinist. Hello,
Lovely to
hello.
meet you. And thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you from the musical family of musicians,
Yeah.
with sisters Margarita and Christine, who are violinists, well, who is a violinist and a cellist. Have I got
Yeah.
them the right way around? Can't remember which one I said
Almost.
first. One of them is the violinist, the other one is
Christine's
the
the
cellist.
violinist, and Margaret is the cellist.
I think
Yes.
Margarita is the cellist,
Yes.
and you're now in Riga. Is that
I'm
right?
in London. I'm in
Oh,
London.
you're in London now, but you were in Riga
We
recently,
were
or
just in Riga and we did our first concert together, like sort of official classical concert that all three of us playing all kinds of pieces. We played solo pieces and then we sort of arranged some pieces for us as a trio. We did the Sarasate Navarra, which is for two violins. We sort of arranged it for string orchestra and added a cello part as well. And
okay,
played.
okay.
There's a concerto by Vivaldi for two violins and cello, which is beautiful. And we
Wow.
played.
And was this the first? This is your first sort of concert since in a few months?
Yes, yes. I mean, my sisters have had a number of concerts also during the lockdown and everything, and I've performed online and I've done sort of recordings and all of that. But yes, as a performance, that was the first in a while for me. And for the three of us as a team, as three balanas, as we call ourselves, that was the first concert.
Gosh,
And
how
yeah,
did it feel?
oh, it was great. And of course, it was live streamed. There was no audience,
Mhm.
but I was really impressed with how well they could do the live stream. The video was really, really nice, and the sound as well. And to do that in a live setting, I was really shocked that
Mhm.
that's possible.
They're able to
Yeah,
make to do it to do it to that quality.
exactly. And yes, we uh, with the regulations we could still perform without masks, and that was nice. Sort of felt a bit normal. Sort of like a few days where we were rehearsing and playing, and it just took me back, to 2019.
To the good old days.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I mean, the immediate reason I'm talking to you now is because you have since is it since the start of lockdown you have been performing, well, releasing how like well, let me ask you this in a second. You've been doing these performances on Facebook Live or Facebook in any way, videos of you performing covers of non classical pieces generally, and they have gone viral. One of them went so viral that Elton John picked up on it because it was actually a cover of a song
Yeah,
by Elton John. It was "I'm Still Standing," and it was awesome.
indeed.
And he picked up on it and said something nice about it, and so it went even more viral anyway. So you've kind of developed a real following through doing this. So yes, I mean, I will talk about that in a second, but I want to ask first of all a bit about kind of you and how you your kind of journey towards becoming a violinist. And because I'm guessing you started off, you grew up in Latvia,
Yes.
in a place which I cannot pronounce. I'm very sorry.
Well, that's yes, it's a small town of about 15,000 people in Latvia, and but it has a very strong music school actually. So that's where my older sister first sort of had violin lessons and things, and then we soon after we actually moved to Riga,
Mhm.
and yes, and started learning there. But I mean, the musical journey really started way before I picked up the violin, and because we were sort of a singing rock and roll family, like in Latvia, we did loads of concerts singing rock and roll and
Oh,
performing in
literally rock and
classical.
roll.
Yes, actual rock and roll sort of,
Okay.
and lots of performances like that before we even kind of considered or picked up any instruments.
Why? How come?
I don't know. It just I guess dad was always sort of a singer as a hobby, and he taught himself to play guitar, and he was always in bands. And then somehow we just, well, our parents just decided that we're gonna do this singing thing, and we
Like the
really
Von Trapps.
took off. Exactly, yes, but just with rock and roll,
Just
and
rock and roll.
as well as songs that dad wrote. And yes, it was lots of fun, and we traveled a lot. And yes, then the classical side of it started, and it kind of developed together. And now
Okay.
I'm kind of just, when I do these pop covers or rock covers, it doesn't really feel like I'm going away from classical. It's sort of like I'm returning more to the actual
Mhm.
roots.
Yeah, to what you started with in a way. And how old are we talking? How old were you when you were doing these rock and roll concerts?
Oh, I think each of us, the siblings, we were probably on stage before the age of 2, and even um, sometimes in the beginning, dad would be singing, and he would have Christine, like sort of a couple of years old, and standing alongside, or even in his hands, singing along and
Uh-huh.
dancing.
And then
And
you were just born into it.
kind of, yes. I was sort of just in the backstage while my sisters were singing at first, and then when I was a couple of years old, 3 years old, I was also singing. And that's my sort of earliest memories are actually related to being on stage, slightly frightened in front of thousands of people, and singing like a little rock and roll song.
And what were these? Were these massive like stadiums you were singing in? I mean,
It
or
was sort of
festivals?
outdoor stages. So there were, and in the very beginning, there were like sort of little festivals and competitions, and then there were bigger, yeah, concerts and kind of televised things.
Okay. I mean, it must have done wonders for your relative pitch and
Oh yes, indeed, yes. I think
musicality.
that's really key to having perfect pitch, to sing and to start early and
Hmm.
exposed to music.
Yeah. So you really had a head start when you came to picking up the violin.
Yes, it was and also I had a lovely teacher who taught me until I was 16, and yeah, he was amazing, and he's still teaching. He's now turning 90 in, I think, next week,
Mhm.
and he's yeah, that's sort of, I owe a lot to him because he was so patient and so great with me. Yes. And
Okay.
then yes, when I was 16, I moved to UK,
Mhm.
to London, and I was at Purcell School for a couple of years, and then at the Royal Academy.
Okay. And was the school of teaching in the UK similar to what you had come from to the Latvian school? I mean,
Oh,
what am I getting at here? I'm wondering, for example, if you were kind of schooled in Latvian repertoire, for example, when you were
Latin.
growing up.
I mean, yes, history of music and such things were different, but so were any subjects really. In any academic subject, like history was different as well, because there's different kind of experiences every country has. And
Mhm.
but yes, the approach was very different, but I wouldn't say one is better or worse
In
than
what way
the other.
was it? Was it different?
It was sort of kind of more broad and open, like in the same way that when you're in A levels or GCSEs, you pick your own subjects. You kind of do what you want to do slightly more than in Latvia, where you would do all the subjects. And so that was kind of interesting, that you could pick the direction you want to go in.
Do you
And
mean picking the direction in terms of music and the violin? And
also, but yeah, so I was able to study music technology when I
Mhm.
moved to London, and I think that was really sort of important, and I it comes in useful all the time when I'm recording something, or when I'm thinking about how things sound, the physics behind it, and yes, lots of useful knowledge that I use every day. Yeah.
Okay, so you studied at the Purcell, you studied at the Royal Academy.
Yeah.
Could you already speak English before you came to the UK?
Yes, and of course at first you understand more than you can say, and at times it was a bit, oh, I couldn't get the words out, and
Frustrating.
yes, but I picked it up, and yes, it wasn't too hard because the environment there is very friendly, and you're kind of in a bubble with like just music around you and nice people.
Did you miss your family?
Yes, initially I was homesick, and when I came back after Christmas the first year, I kind of thought, oh gosh, you know, coming back to gray London when there was snow in Latvia and lots of fun. But I think that was really the only time that I was so sad about going to UK, and since then I've just been happy in both places.
Yeah, it is sometimes harder, not when you first leave home, but when you come back and then go again.
Exactly.
Then
Yes.
then
At
it
first
hits.
it's so exciting, and then you go back and you see what you were missing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And was it now I want to find out a little bit how you, because you are a classical violinist as well.
Yes, of course.
Uh,
Yes.
how you made that, well, you say you came from rock and roll, so it wasn't really a transition, but how you decided to go down this path. Was it only at the start of lockdown that you really did, or was it already before that you were going that way?
Oh no, this started I think about 5 years ago, when I picked up the electric violin, and I had this idea of, oh, I want to play some pop songs on and something, but I can't really do it on the acoustic violin. Well, or so I thought. But so I learned about the technology, and I saw that there is such a thing as a loop pedal and effects pedals, and you can do all kinds of things with it. So I went and got myself a violin, a loop pedal, an effects pedal, and then just sort of started experimenting with it. And really, it kind of blew my mind how much I could do with it. And I could do whole songs, and I could record the drums on the violin, hitting different things, or with the bow. I could record the bass line by putting the violin sound octave or two below. And it was just fascinating for me. And yeah, that's how I started sort of using the violin for pop and rock music. And later on, yes,
you always wrote your own arrangements.
Of course, I mean, there's no real there's no sheet music for this. There's no there's no resources that tell you what to do or how to do it. And oftentimes, like, electric violin is seen as a sort of a easy version of the violin, where it's kind of you don't have to project so much or something. But I wanted it to be more like an extra hard sort of challenge to actually get it to sound good and to create these entire songs from scratch in a live setting, which was, nothing can go wrong, because if it does, then it stays on the loop for the whole song, and you kind of have to deal with it. Yes, and later on, I think this was 2017, I started, well, there was one song that I wanted to really record, and I couldn't come up with a way to do it on the loop pedal. It just didn't work for it, and it kind of lost all meaning if it was looped, and it just didn't sound good. So I kind of tried some things on the acoustic violin, and I thought maybe different ways of recording it, maybe multi-track it, or sort of split screen things. But in the end, I just came up with an arrangement that was just solo acoustic violin and some extended techniques. And
what was it?
Sorry?
What was the arrangement?
So it was a song by Wolfpack. Yes. What's the official name? Baby, I Don't Know. It's and basically it opens with like these piano chords, and I couldn't really figure out how could I play these, and I tried just normal chords on the violin, but by splitting them, I thought it just it sounded like a violin. It didn't sound like a pop song. And what I ended up doing was taking the bow and undoing the bow hair and sort of taking it off and putting it other way around on the violin.
Other way round on the violin.
Yes, so it allows you to play all 4 strings at the same time, but it's also very messy and it looks very scary. And I got a lot of comments saying, "Oh my God, what is he doing? He doesn't care about the bow." And
as in it, do you mean it's as in it's so loose that it covers all
yes,
strings?
you take it apart.
Oh,
violin in the middle. Yes, I'm
wait,
not gonna.
can you show me? You take it, please show me.
You do this. You
Uh-huh.
take it apart.
Uh-huh.
And you take the violin. So, and you have to put the violin in the middle.
Okay.
And then you can play all 4 strings. And that was sort of the only way I could
Okay.
play the opening.
Oh, so you got lots of angry letters after this?
I still do. Yes. It's never stopped. But yeah, that's sort of was the beginning of it, and that's just the opening of the song. Later on, just it's a bit of a funky arrangement, but yeah, that went really far, and the band reshared it and sort of commented how and sort of were very mystified as to what I had done, and it really encouraged me to keep going and to try and come up with new arrangements and push the boundaries of both violin technique and repertoire. Because
so what kind of other crazy things did you do with your instrument in order to come up with these extended techniques?
I mean, there's a lot of percussive sounds and involved with the bow, and a lot of left hand pizzicato, which kind of just goes. It's not really a sort of. It doesn't feel like I'm adding them. It just feels like for the song it needs it, and when you want to get that pop sound or rock sound, sometimes there's no other way because it just doesn't exist on the violin, so you have to find a way.
Okay. And was there did you have to take off any other bits of your instruments and put them anywhere else, or?
I can't remember on the top of my head, but I think
removing of the pegs or the.
Oh yes, I've done detuning for some arrangements. I did it for Billie Eilish's "Bad Guy" because it just worked really well in the in a key in G minor, but the lowest note is F. So I would in the beginning I would detune it, and it took me forever to learn how to do it consistently, and because there's sort of, I think four times I do it just in the first 20 seconds, so to get it all working in live setting was really a challenge. But yes, I'm really proud of that recording because I don't know, there's a lot going on. There's I think there's I hit the thing from the other side because I need to be on this side for the detuning. And then I can't do it now. I have to.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Remind myself what it was, but it just basically involves a lot of fast action and multiple extended techniques. I don't know. It's not really even a technique, detuning. I've never come across having to do it on the violin. I know that some cello pieces do that. They
having to do it that fast. I mean, there is that. I mean, that the Mahler symphony where you have.
Oh yes, of course. But you keep a separate violin for that.
That's true, and you don't. Yeah, that's true. You don't have to keep twiddling the knob.
Gosh, yeah, no, that's very not very reliable in a concert setting.
No, it's high risk. I mean, a lot of what you're doing is quite high risk stuff.
It's high risk, little reward. Yeah.
Are you a bit of an adrenaline junkie?
Well, I guess as far as violin playing goes, yes, indeed.
Okay, so can you tell me where do you think you'll take it? I mean, you know, it's been kind of perfect for this pandemic period because you can make these videos. Do you think that you will well, take it somewhere else, maybe once we get some kind of normality again? Or what kind of plans do you have?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely planning to take it on tour, to take it in concerts, and make sort of a live show out of it with maybe not just acoustic violin, but with a band. And also I want to kind of, like, coming back to the fact that there were no resources for me to learn this kind of stuff, because it just doesn't really exist. So I'm planning to release more sheet music and sort of videos for violinists to be able to learn this stuff and to kind of follow the music and discover another side of the violin. That's sort of another goal for me to teach this stuff. And
Yeah, I mean, you've got a real monopoly on this right now. You got a USP.
yes, I mean, I get a lot of people writing to me for advice about some of the techniques and the sheet music, and it's sort of, yeah, I think there's really a need and a demand for it, and just seeing how many violinists reach out to me, it's just, I know I want to do that, and I want to help inspire people and probably bring also new people to the world of violin who may not be so interested in the classical music, but they want to just
Mhm.
have fun, play something that they know, and maybe that will bring them to the more classical repertoire as well. And
Yeah. I mean, well, I know that when I shared your cover of "I'm Still Standing" on my Facebook wall, I got people reacting to it who have nothing to do with classical music at all.
yeah.
Completely different people. For if I put up, I don't know, Mendelssohn violin. If I were ever to put up a recording of Mendelssohn violin concerto on Facebook, I would get a completely different people reacting to it. I know that. So I found that interesting at the time.
Yes. No, it's been fascinating to see how far it goes, and sometimes reading the messages from people and all over the world. I think I have a lot of followers from South America who write to me a lot, and a majority is actually in the US. When I've only been there once, and it's very exciting to know that there is a sort of a fan base building, and violinists who are interested in playing this stuff and listening to it.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so I think we've come to the point now. You're going to actually play me something now.
Oh, well, I've been, yes, just working on something for just over the weekend. The latest video I released was a little sea shanty, because there was a sort of a sea shanty craze on the internet, and I wanted to join.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually the first bit of sheet music I posted, and a lot of people, I just I made it available for people to download, and a lot of people have been sending me videos of them playing it. And when I did this recording, I actually thought, oh, it sounds a lot like this other song. What was it? And I googled around to find it. I knew it was a polka, and it's Ievan polka. It's a Finnish traditional piece song, and it's just become a sort of an internet hit over the past decade or so. Mm-hmm. And I thought I could do a little violin version, and it's not complete yet. I'm planning to perhaps publish it sometime this week, and along with the sheet music, so people can learn how to play it, and maybe create a couple of different versions for different levels of playing as well.
Okay, so what we're getting is a preview.
A preview, yeah. Sort of. I'll just play a couple of
pre-listen.
Yes. You should also listen to the original. It's very funny because it's a cappella, and it's got millions, if not billions, of hits online. It's one of those viral hits. That's
oh really? Okay, well I'll ask you more about that when you've finished, when you've played it. I really want to hear this.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
going to involve a bit more
Mhm,
extended techniques and sort of jazz it up
mhm,
and create a couple of different versions, I think, for people to learn.
uh-huh.
But that's sort of roughly how it goes.
Wow. Okay. And gosh, and this is can you tell me the name of it again?
It's Ievan
Yeah.
polka with two Ks. It's a Finnish,
Uh-huh.
but
Okay.
it's quite easy to find online. There's a million different versions, and I don't really know what the original is, but there's the one that's most famous, which is sort of a Finnish a cappella group singing it.
Okay. Okay. So there's never been any version for violin in any way, shape, or form.
I'm sure they have. There have sort of been. There's always versions of violin, and often they're just the melody with accompaniment,
Mhm.
and but I haven't seen any violin solo versions.
Okay. What you're basically turning it yourself into a one-man band there.
Kind of, yes, and it's very fitting for lockdown, I guess, for people to they can have a go as well at home and play it by themselves
Mhm, mhm.
because
Yeah.
there's you can't play with anyone else. It's
It sounds quite melancholic. Is it? Do we know what this song? Does it have a kind of content or
I
any kind of?
think it's some kind of love story about a guy and a girl called Eva. That's why it's Evan polka. But I don't actually know know what it's about.
Okay.
I'll read up on it. And yes, it's kind of a funny song. Maybe I made it sound too melancholic.
Well, I mean, there's room for interpretation and in
Exactly.
everything. I mean, I found it interesting with that Elton John. I'm sorry, I'm coming back to this again, but
Yes.
that the feeling you gave to it was quite. God, can I say this? I almost liked it better than on on the violin because I don't know why. Why did I like it better? I'm like, is this some kind of sacrilegious to say this?
No, I mean the song itself um, wasn't very violinistic when I listened to it, but it was really upbeat and
It's really upbeat, and on the
yes.
violin, maybe it's kind of more contained.
Mm.
And there's something I don't know. There's something kind of more intimate about it, I guess.
Yes. No, there's a very full sound in the original, and he has the full band playing, and it's a lot of fun. But sort of cutting down to just a violin version was very interesting because I could bring some other things into it and had to decide what will remain and what will go because I couldn't play the drum part. I couldn't play everything, so I had to make decisions about what stays and what doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I would recommend people to listen to both versions side by side because they do feel different in their mood. Not just
Mm,
kind of the sound or the techniques, but the actual feeling of it is a little bit different.
indeed.
So Elton John found it somewhere. Your recording of it.
So the story is that I was supposed to perform it live to him in an event in a fundraiser um, at the Royal Academy, and this of course had to be cancelled. It was planned for May, but none of it could happen because of lockdown. And but I had prepared the arrangement anyway, and I thought, well, I'll have a go. I'll record it, and I sent it sort of in the direction of Sir Elton John. Of course I couldn't send it directly to him, but it made its way to him, and he he called me the same evening or the next evening, and we had a chat, and he loved it. And then a couple of weeks later, he actually uh, published it on his social media. So
Okay.
that's how it
Okay.
found him. And yes,
Are you still are you still in touch?
yes, well, we've been in touch, and I also did another arrangement of his, and I published it a couple of months ago. Yes, it was in October, and yes, he also heard that. And
Okay. And you're planning to do more covers of his music and
perhaps, I mean, I've discovered so much wonderful music since then that I've
yeah,
read more
yeah.
of this discography. There's an artist like him. There's years and years of songs to go through that you sometimes haven't heard about, and it actually was the case for me with "I'm Still Standing" because I was initially planning to do something like your song, something I really was familiar with. But then I dug a bit deeper, and I started finding lots of suitable songs for the violin.
Yeah, I mean, there is no limit, is there? You could do, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Latvian folk songs as well.
Oh yes, yes, there's lots. The not all of them are internet sensations, but not yet.
Not yet. No, not until you get hold of them. And yeah, I mean, I suppose what I found most interesting about what you're doing is it's not a straightforward cover, is it? It's bringing kind of the very best of classical technique to virtuosic classical technique to pop music or to folk music. So it really is a kind of meeting somewhere in the middle.
Yes, yes. I want to always keep it sort of try to make it equivalent to classical pieces. So it's sort of more than a cover. It's new repertoire, and it's actually something I could perform in a concert. And because it's not so interesting to just play the melody for me. And it's really the challenge of condensing a pop song on just 4 strings and playing it live. That's really what's exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, because when you watch it, you're like, oh, it looks so difficult.
Yes, no, some of them have been very difficult. There was a one I did at the beginning of lockdown, Killer Queen, and it's actually of all my arrangements, I don't think it sounds like the hardest one. It doesn't sound that hard or so impressive, but it's actually probably the hardest one I've made, because it involves stretching crazy amounts, like I think I stretched something like a fifth over an octave, and it was just it got to the point where, like, oh, my fingers were like getting cramps just from trying to record it. And
honestly, very painful.
it was a challenge, and sort of that's what I was after, and especially in lockdown, to really create these things and to try and push yourself and create something new.
Yeah, I mean, those pieces, it's very admirable when you play pieces like that are actually so hard to play and they don't sound as hard as they are.
Yes, that's sort of the wrong way around. You want it to sound hard and be easy. Yes.
Yeah, someone said that to me about the Dvorak violin concerto once, that it's so much harder than it sounds, and that is maybe something about it that makes it a little bit unsatisfying for the performer, because you don't get this whoop whoop from the audience at the end, because they don't realize quite how hard it is.
Yes, or all of Mozart and Beethoven concerto.
Gosh, yeah, so much repertoire.
Yes.
Yeah, gosh. Okay, well, Robert, thank you so much. It's been really interesting talking to you about this.
Thank you for having me. It's
been a real pleasure talking to you. And I wish you all the best with it. And yeah, and you say that you're going to bring out this piece this week.
Yes, and I think there'll be at least a couple of different versions of it, so that everyone can have a go. And yes, I'll be publishing it on my Facebook page and all over social media. So
okay, and if people want to get hold of sheet music for any of these things, how would they go about it?
So that will be, I'll attach all the information with the video.
Okay, and have you been doing that with your other covers as well?
So I haven't been publishing sheet music so much. I only did it for the previous sea shanty. I made it available for download, and yeah, a lot of people really appreciated it and have been posting videos of their own versions of it, and sometimes also changing it a little bit, which is exciting.
Okay,
so I hope to create a community of violinists who are interested in playing something other than classical music. And I play the violin myself. I mean, I used to, while I still practice the violin. Well, I look forward to your version of
You're very optimistic there. But I will definitely look it up. I've been playing a lot of Scottish folk fiddle music.
Hey.
So I'm branching out. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And Robert, thank you so much again. And I hope that we will meet again at some point in the future, when this is over.
Yes.
If.
Of course.
Great.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. But thanks so much again, and take care.
Thank you. Yes, you too.
Okay, bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.